What does it mean to grow? What does it take? Is it just the passage of time? Or the workings of the mind? Is it fun? What does it cost? Is it worth it? Or would it leave me feeling confused and lost? Okay, this is it. I can't do this anymore. I have failed to find love, and because of this, I am going Indian. I mean, I'm going to adopt the Indian system of arranged marriages and just look for a setup. Don't worry, I'll explain it to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time you're listening to this. Welcome to episode 3 of the Explore podcast, where I will talk to you about arranged marriages and why I think they could be our chance for finding love better or ending up in better relationships. So without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, in the beginning, there were marriages. And these marriages were marriages of reason. What happened was a certain family would start talking to another family, and they would look at how powerful of a unit they would be if they were joined together. So the Temples would talk to the Piris and say, we have a huge piece of land here and you have lots of cattle. So if we joined our families, we would be able to cultivate the land using the cattle, and we would be able to house the cattle and maybe grow the two assets. So we should get our child to marry your child or your child, and so that we can join the families. And then the Temples would go back to their son and say, hey, there's a Martha there. She's a decent young lady. She sweeps the entire compound all the time. She listens to her elders and she takes care of her siblings. You should marry her. It wasn't really a question, that Tembo chap just had to marry that Martha kid. Not Martha kid, but Martha adult, just in case. But anyways, it's a village, so you don't know. My bad. I digressed. But my point is, these marriages were marriages of reason. The getting together of two families was strategic, for lack of better terms. That might actually be the best term. They were very strategic marriages. It actually happened that people would stop someone from marrying from a particular family for a number of reasons. So whether you love the person that comes from that family or not doesn't matter. You just cannot marry them, right? But over time, that felt like oppression, to have someone choose for you who to marry, that's just very unhealthy, isn't it? We can't conceive of such a notion now, but back in the day, that was the status quo. So then people started to deviate from that path. They thought we should choose and be the masters of our destinies. We should be able to select who we want to be with on our own. And society agreed, so people started to choose for themselves who they end up with. But now there were problems, and there are still problems. So the issue, I think, is, or the transition from having your mate chosen for you to choosing your own mate happened faster than the learning of what you need to know before you choose a mate. So people think that they can get into mutually beneficial long-term relationships purely out of intuition. You can just sense it. You know, the moment when you meet somebody and you have a blast with them, you just vibe. That's what people say. You just vibed. You know, they're the same person. You know, they're just, you know, you can't even explain it. Yeah, that's usually the problem. Because from that vibe, people will make a long-term decision. I will be with this person for a long period of time. Off of this one emotionally charged moment where everything seems to align. But we forget that people are multifaceted. People have many sides to them. And just because this one side aligns in this one instance where you are in the same space with the same people and the same expectations and all of that linear stuff, it doesn't mean that everything that matters to that person will matter to you, or things that matter to you will matter to the person, or that you will have a flowing relationship over time. So imagine that somebody you meet at a party has got all the things you are attracted to, you know. They are good looking, they are smart, they smell nice. I'm talking about me. These are my things. They might not be your things, but we all have some things, right? So when that happens, your decision making has been skewed already. You are going to automatically look for reasons to strengthen your relationship with this person. And you will also start avoiding reasons to walk away from this person because you want to have a good thing, you know? So then you are biased in how you vet or you analyze this particular person. It's only after like 3-4 months when the whole rosy phase is done that you actually start to look at them the right way. You know, you start to see their flaws and to see their errors and to see them as they actually are, not as the person that you project in your head or that you imagine them to be, you know? So that's the first reason that most relationship that people, you know, go for don't work. We are biased in our selection process because we are just looking for 1, 2, 3 things that are very superficial, that over time may not even matter, and we're going to make a decision based off of that. Or we vibed. Or we just clicked. Okay, you clicked, but are you going to stay in place? So that's the first thing. The second reason that a lot of these relationships and a lot of the mate selection processes are flawed is we choose toxic people because we choose people that remind us of where we were or that feel familiar. Let me explain. If you were raised in a family that did not pay you any compliments, so they did not say you're good at this, they did not say you've done this well, they did not say anything that encouraged you, you will adjust your understanding of a compliment and your expectations of compliments. That might actually get you to a space where you get suspicious of compliments. I have met people who do not trust compliments. They feel uncomfortable because they just don't feel like they're a normal thing. You know, compliments are not familiar because when they were growing up, they were not complimented. So maybe they even resent compliments or they get suspicious. You be out there saying, I think you look good. And they're like, what do you want from me? So that's one example out of many examples of things that could happen and that do happen that may be toxic and that we carry on with us. So the way you were loved as a child by your guardians, by your parents, is the way you ideally want to be loved as an adult. So you start to look for people who love you the same way that your parents and your guardians loved you, even if it was toxic. And unfortunately, a lot of us were loved in ways that may be toxic. And this is not to say our parents were bad or they were evil, but this is life, okay? Most of us don't know where we're going and we're just figuring it out as we go. So we make lots of mistakes on the way. And our parents were no exceptions. So if your parents loved you in a way that was toxic in any way, you tend to look for that same toxic kind of love in your partners. In fact, it gets so bad that some people, when they are loved in a healthy way, they get suspicious and they even sabotage the relationship. And they'll just look for toxic love. And this is exactly why we see that we have similar relationships. We pick people that are similar because our internal compass points towards a particular person, and once we see them, they just feel right. We just click, we just vibe. Why? Because they feel like home, because they feel familiar, because they feel like they will love us the way that we were loved when we were children. Which also means that they will make us suffer the way that we suffered as children. The only difference is, as a child, you don't know that it's suffering. As a child, you share a different relationship with your parents than you do with your partner. For example, if your parents were the sort that always talked down on you, always said negative things, always made you feel smaller and made you feel like you're nothing, you can't fight them back. You just let it be. But when you're an adult and you have your partner, and your partner is doing that to you, you will definitely fight back. And when you fight back, you have a different reaction than when you had with your parents. Because with your parents, they did something to you, you took it, you didn't react, it ended there, all was well. With your partner, when they do something to you, you react, it escalates, all is chaos. So you have to understand that in as much as the toxic love you got from your parents worked, it only worked because you could not do anything about it. You could only sit there and take it. But now with your partner, you are seeing other people who are being loved in ways that you know consciously are healthy. Even if you are subconsciously looking for that toxicity, you consciously know what healthy looks like. So there's also that divide where your feelings are taking you towards a toxic person, and your mind is telling you this is what a healthy person feels like or looks like or loves like. So we really have to grow to the point where we are able to identify our own attraction to toxicity, and we know what kind of love we had as children, and we can choose what we need even if what we want is not there. So with all of this said, why do I think arranged marriages would work? Well, first of all, when somebody is picking somebody for you, they know the person. They, at least in principle, should know the characteristics and the personality and the traits that this person has that would be good in a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship. So they would know this person is mature, this person treats people well, this person is caring. These are general traits that someone who can hold down a relationship should have. You know, this is things that someone should have grown to learn in order for them to be a healthy partner. So then if they know these things about the person and then they choose this person for you, even if you don't have an initial attraction to this person, you will eventually get the benefits of their characteristics. The longer we stay with someone is the more we see them for who they really are. So imagine you find somebody who you think is hot and you just click and you stay with them for a year. You start to see now what kind of person they are. And most times, they are not good. But when somebody is chosen for you, you're not attracted to them initially. You stay with them for a year. You eventually start to see all of the good things that they have, and you start to appreciate them deeply. And because of having stayed with them for a long time, you actually start to get attached to them. So in this instance, an arranged marriage or an arranged relationship kind of gives you the reverse of love, where you don't start with a bang and with this excitement and the thrill and everything. You start with suspicions. You start with maybe, nonchalant kind of emotional states or, like emotional spaces. But over time, you start to grow attached to this person. You start to appreciate this person. You start to see just why they are great. And this is not to say that they're always great, because they could be bad as well. But in principle, if you're setting people up, you should know the traits that they have and how those traits would work in a long-term, mutually beneficial romantic relationship. So The second thing is when somebody's picking a partner for you, they're not being driven by the same negative biases that you are. They're not looking for the toxic love that you were given as a child. They're looking to see who has a healthy understanding of a mutually beneficial relationship. So they'll pick somebody for you who's healthy, and a lot of the time, they might actually feel uncomfortable. The person that they pick for you might feel uncomfortable because you're used to toxic, or you're looking for toxic, and they're not it. But over time, you start to appreciate that in a practical case, they are healthier for you, and that they are helpful for you, and that they help you become a better version of yourself. So those are the two reasons that I think arranged marriages would work in principle. Now, forget what I said at the beginning. I'm probably not going to use the Indian system of arranged marriages. But I think it's important that we should take time to think through our own biases, our expectations, our pursuits, and our background, so as to know just where we need help. Because sometimes we look for things that we don't need, and we hold on to things that we don't need, and we let go of things that we need, simply because we have not taken time to sit with ourselves, to figure ourselves out, and to see where we may not be rightly adjusted. Okay, so this is it for me. I'm grateful that you have come through to listen to this. And if you have any thoughts, any comments, any questions, any compliments, any complaints, please feel free to get through to me. You can leave a comment. You can text me on Facebook. This has been Xander with the Explore podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great one.